Welcome to today's edition of Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. आप सबको प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल, नमस्कार, आदाब and shalom. And like I always mention, make sure that when you're watching the show, send me an email, shoot me an email on hstoor@gmail.com. It is hstoor@gmail.com. And I will be more than happy to get back to you, answer your questions. Sometime I do get some of the feedback, but I would appreciate also the critical feedback, not just giving me, like I say, don't give me what I would like to hear. Tell me what I should hear. I always say, most of the people, they like what to listen, but I'm more like, I should be informed about what I should be listening, not what I want to listen. So having said that, today is last day of April 2024, and in the second segment of the show after 6:30, we will have a guest also on the show, and we will talk about some of the achievements which we have achieved in New York per se, beside the other locations, other states, even on federal level, some of the things were achieved. But before that, there are few things which I'm going to discuss here, which are going to be the facts which I'm going to put out as I understand and as I know. And some of the people, they may not like it, including some of the powers may not like it, but the facts are facts. Let us first start with what exactly is Vaisakhi for the Sikhs. Vaisakhi itself is celebrated throughout South Asia, not just in Punjab. Punjab itself is now, a minute percentage of what originally the whole Punjab was, because 60% went to Pakistan, 40% was with India, within 40%, then 40% was created Haryana, out of whatever was left. Before that, Himachal Pradesh was created. So Punjab is literally left like a very small piece right now. But that's not the point here to discuss. The issue which we are discussing here actually is, the thing which we are discussing here actually is what Vaisakhi is, number one, for everybody, and then how it is different and has a different meaning for the Sikhs. Vaisakhi actually is related with the, the farmers bringing the, crops home, selling it, in the old time, storing it and bartering it. Now it is sold, and having some money in their pockets, pay off some loans, have the whole thing, because this is the season when your crop actually matures and you bring the fruits of your efforts, all those efforts and hard work which you have done during the last couple of years. A couple of months. And that again depends still on, a lot of it depends on Mother Nature. At old time it was all based on the rains. Now irrigation systems and everything, tube wells, they have changed the whole concept of agriculture. So that's another issue about the depletion of water level because of agriculture. But again, this show is not about, today's show is not about that. So I'm not going to talk about that. So everywhere, it is celebrated. Assam is in East, Bengal in the South, Keralites, Tamilians, from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. I mean, you name it, they do celebrate it. Okay. And I got invited to, Vaisakhi was celebrated at Indian Consulate also by Professor Inderjeet Singh Saluja, and I was invited also to be there, and I was debating whether to go or not to go because of what is happening here, which I'm going to talk after this. But then I decided to go that I should go and listen to what is being talked about. And when I was there, I heard, different speakers talking about it. And everybody, including the acting consular at the Indian consulate in New York, he was one of the main speaker there. He even talked about Vaisakhi in a diluted form, if I may use that term, diluted, because he was talking about everybody. For me, yes, I did speak over there also, but I'm making sure that over here, what I'm saying is listened carefully. Guru Nanak Dev Ji started a revolution after he was born in 1469. Guru Gobind Singh Ji on Vaisakhi, when he created the Khalsa, the pure, on the day of Vaisakhi in 1699, he actually, that was the culmination of what Guru Nanak Dev Ji started, or like Baba Nanak is, people say respectfully, even in Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, even Saudi Arabia, there are, historical facts about it. So, having said that, for the Sikhs, Vaisakhi has this added significance because on that day, any community, historically, first time ever happened that a whole community is being baptized together in a huge gathering for the first time. And that differentiates the day of Vaisakhi for the Sikhs than the day of Vaisakhi for other people. Passover falls during the same time, Christian holidays fall during the same time, because like I have talked earlier, that every religion except Protestant Christianity, they use lunar calendar, and on lunar calendar, based on the lunar calendar, these holidays are celebrated, and they can be off by a day or so during the year. So for some people that's an issue, because the new generation which which we talk about, the new generation is not really learning about it. I'm sorry, I'm also sending some message to the guest. So based on that, for the Sikhs, it is an honor to celebrate. Like I always say, people talk about, and I have heard a lot of time, people, they, oh, main pag rakh laun. For me, I don't do pag rakh laun. I feel proud when I tie my turban in the morning. And same way, Vaisakhi has its own special meaning for us. And anybody who tries to dilute it, they have their ulterior motives to dilute actually the whole community's image. And there is a consistent attack, doesn't matter which government is at the center in India. Sikhs are always target. The reason is because they know that if anybody who can defy the diktats, and those are the Punjabis. And when I talk about saying Punjabis, I'm not talking about only Punjabi Sikhs, even non-Sikhs also. Even though because of our visibility, we end up getting in front of everything, and government uses the media to depict Sikhs as whichever way they feel comfortable, as terrorists or, creator of the problems, this and that, because the issues, when you talk about the issues are not discussed the way should be. They are not looked at the way they should be. And I will not mince any word here to say that even the government in Punjab, Aam Aadmi Party, we will see down the road how it fares. But so far, Akalis or Congress, they all failed Punjab collectively, and including BJP, they also failed Punjab and Punjabis and the Sikhs collectively. Like I said, I'm not going to mince any words, and I'm going to state the facts, and these are the facts. Anybody can look at the facts. You know, a simple fact, why Punjab is the only state which was bifurcated so many times and still does not have the capital which was built for Punjab. Because that, helps to keep the fire up in other parts of India for the ruling party, whether it's Congress or BJP, doesn't matter. It helps them to gain power in other states which were created of Punjab, whether it was Haryana or Himachal Pradesh. That suits them. So when it comes down to the Punjab per se, then what happens is this is how they treat it. And that is where I beg to differ with a lot of these people who try to dilute the importance of Vaisakhi for the Sikhs, because it is a very integral part of our culture, our faith, and us. And I'm sorry to say that within Sikh community, there are some young kids, kids, I will not use the word, that's the wrong word, I will take it back. There are some activists or so-called activists who wants to dilute the importance of this by deciding that they will not participate in certain events just because their ego was not soothed by somebody, whosoever they were expecting that who will massage their ego. Question is, this is a celebration for us, for the Sikh community, and we should be celebrating collectively. Whatever difference we have, we can always talk about it after the events. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toon. Now I'm going to talk about why it matters what I'm saying. There was an article in Washington Post about the Indian government killing Niger in Canada. Then was another gentleman in United Kingdom, in England. I don't have the name right now. And then trying to kill Gurupatwant Singh Pannu here in the United States on the US soil. And then I was reading the comments posted by, I can see the trolling being done clearly. Why? Because there is a whole team deployed by the government to, intimidate the people who will write against anything which the government doesn't want to discuss. And that actually brings me to say that the media in India, I was in India, I have been in India, I do watch the newspaper, I follow the news on, I will be very frank here, not on the TV, because as far as the TV is concerned, I think it is all noise, noise, noise. They yell at each other, they don't discuss any issues, they just set up the whole thing. And it's like a drama being played out there on the TV screens. So as far as that is concerned, that's out for me. But yes, I do read the paper, a couple of newspapers from India. That's Tribune, which I have been reading since I was in, I think in the 8th grade, back home in India. It was delivered at home. That's another story. My mom used to cancel it. I will go to the guy and I will ask him why it is not delivered. Well, that's a very interesting story. Maybe at one of the story writing time, I will write about it. Then India Today, Frontline, Hindustan Times, Indian Express. These are the newspapers which I, scroll through to look at. And some of the YouTube personalities, I don't listen that much because those are long 30 minutes on one topic, and I don't think, that helps me to understand what's going on. They are right that whatever they are doing, it's worth it for them, but for me, it's not. So I just look at the portion, look at the part, listen to it, and move on. Okay. So I saw those comments, and all those comments are being made in context of the psyche of, how should I say, that we haven't we haven't come out of that psyche of give me a moment. The guest is actually chatting with me. So, a paper like Washington Post, the people, they should know that these newspapers, New York Times also, New York Times is considered like more lefty. They try to be more lefty in modern world, and I don't know how to put it down the other way. Even Wall Street Journal covered some of the issues being, facing, being faced by the people. And now what happens is when the Prime Minister of a country, who is the head of a country, he says that it is justified to go and kill the citizens of other country. It's not kosher. I'm not saying the other countries don't do it. United States do its own part. Israelis, they do it. Those are the power struggles within those countries. But over here, I don't see that power struggle which they are except that a justice was not done to the Punjabis in general and Sikhs in particular. And the anger outside is a genuine anger or frustration. I think that's a more appropriate word. And out of that frustration, there are other factors which people generally don't pay attention to. One factor is that there are people out there who will go to all these rallies against the Indian government about Khalistan, who have only one motive: to get the green card, get settled, or PR, like they say, permanent residency, and as soon as they get it, they go back to India. Then they get married over there, they bring their wife here, then their families follow, blah, blah, blah. That's their only interest. Then the government has its own interest, how not to let the institutions or the gurdwaras run properly, because if they run independently, I'm not saying those managements are efficient, but they probably can be a little bit more efficient than what they are today if there is no interference. And those people who are watching this interview or the show, they would know what I'm talking about. Number three, it helps the government also, the Indian government I'm talking here. Again, doesn't matter whether it's BJP or Congress, to keep this thing boiling. I always talk about the BJP and other people blaming Congress for 1984. Yes, I also believe that it was part of the whole thing. But then again, when the attack was decided L.K. Advani from BJP, Mr. Vajpayee, the former Prime Minister of BJP, was part and parcel of that group which actually advised the then Prime Minister of India, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, to go ahead and teach a lesson. To who? To the Sikhs. Why? Because they were actually, the whole movement started actually with the Anandpur Sahib resolution, which was actually asking a true federal structure of India, which is being diluted by every government. And that's why this current election is so important for the current Prime Minister Modi, who is already baffled about, about the reports which they are getting, the feedback from the polling. They are not happy with that. And they have already started creating a further friction within the community, naming the Muslims openly now by the Prime Minister of India. Even after 9/11, even though it was an act of a group of Muslims from Muslim world, majority from Pakistan, who took down the World Trade Center, who plane crashed into Pentagon, plane fell in Pennsylvania and other things. But George W. Bush, the President of the United States at that time, still he did not name Muslims as the target. And interestingly, we the Sikhs became the target because people still don't know about our faith. They still don't know about who we are, what we are, and why we have the beard and turban and everything. And then also within our own community, there are people who, and I'm sorry I'm saying it, but it's a fact, they went clean shaved because of whatever the reasons were. And all of a sudden, after that, after they settle down, they are successful businessmen, they grow their beard, then they become, baptized. And the sad part is, after becoming the Sikhs and getting baptized, they actually become extreme rightists. Whereas in Sikhism, there is no extremism. They dictate what you can put on. They dictate what you cannot put on. They dictate how you breathe. They try to dictate what you can do and what you cannot do. And none of them, honestly, I believe that they have not really looked at or read the Guru Granth Sahib, the preaching and teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and so on till Guru Gobind Singh Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. If you read their teachings, they talk about equality of humans, irrespective of their caste, creed, color, and everything. Not to pick and choose based on what you think is right, just because you think you are a better Sikh. Who made you a better Sikh? I don't understand that. And that's why it reminds me, I was listening to this, a small poem from Jaswant Singh Zafar about Guru Nanak Dev Ji. It's really so much true what he said in that poem, that we feel comfortable with that Guru Nanak Dev Ji, that Sobha Singh's poster, than looking at what were the preachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. He challenged the authorities. He challenged the entrenched Brahmanism. He challenged the entrenched mullahs, Maulvis. He challenged almost everybody who thought and said that they have the right on the religion and they can do and what they cannot do. Well, like I was talking about, we have some issue with the guest coming on board right now. We are trying to resolve that, but in the meantime, we can continue about what we are talking about, the election back home in India. So those the calculations have been actually jolted. So those calculations are not there anymore. You don't hear anymore about 400 from the BJP or and then they are going back to the old beaten path of name calling. And interestingly, the current government did everything to which honestly I think any party which is in power, they will try to do it as they can. And and that's what basically it is. So this is something interesting which is happening over there with the that's the noise which you hear. That's the guest being trying to get him her connected. So what happens basically here in those elections, doesn't matter where the democratic process is, these things always happen like that. Okay, so what we are talking about is well, I have been given a thumbs up that the guest is here. So let us see. I don't see the guest on the screen. Yeah, I see her here. Okay, finally we have been able to connect. Let me first introduce you the guest. She is New York City Councilwoman Lynn Shulman, and she actually represents one of the biggest segment of the Punjabi Sikh community, which is the heart of New York City, Richmond Hill area, and 118th Street Gurdwara, which is the oldest Gurdwara, actually the first one on East Coast, falls into her district now, and she took over that area as of January 1st. Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for coming on board.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Okay. I'm going to go over 2-3 things before we dig deeper into it. I was waiting for you. April achievement, which we actually had here in New York State and New York City. On April 16, we had a New York State Senate declaring April as a Sikh Awareness Month. Then on 24th of April, we had at One Police Plaza by Sikh Officer Associations, again regarding Sikh awareness and having the Sikhs serving in NYPD. Then on 25th, we celebrated Vaisakhi in Chamber of New York City. That was for the second time which we did. It was sponsored by Linda Lee, Padawan, and Lynn Shulman collectively. And on Saturday, the 27th, we had a Sikh Day Parade. And interestingly, the 25th celebration of Vaisakhi at City Council, there were some people who actually openly called to boycott it just because they were not consulted, because they were consulted last year and they made a couple of big issues about which were not discussed initially, and then they went on blaming. But for me, that's not the issue. The issue is this year when we went to the City Council, the Gatka team, when they were bringing in all their instruments, including the sport, they had no issue. Whereas last year was the first time they had a big issue. So, Lynn, you want to, talk about that, how it happened, and how you feel having the Punjabi Sikh community as part of your district?
I'm so excited to have the Punjabi Sikh community as part of my district. It's such a diverse cultural area, and there are so many diverse, wonderful people in it. It's just amazing. And since the day that the lines were changed, the city council lines were changed to include that part of Queens in my district, I have just felt so overjoyed and so full of warmth and from the community. So it's very exciting. I spend a lot of time in that part of the community. As you know, as you just said, we had a lot of sick events, which I attended, went to the sick offices, was the co-host of this year's sick heritage event. Also went to the sick parade, which I was really excited about because it was the 36th annual parade. It was the largest contingency of the Sikh community on the East Coast, and it was just amazing, the colors and the culture and everything. So it's been a very exciting period for me.
Well, thank you. I got to mention that this is also the Passover week, which we are finishing up, I think, today.
Yes.
Right? So,
Yep.
again, happy Passover to you. And, she was there, even though she is Jew, and she was there to celebrate with us before she went to, synagogue and other places wherever she needed to go. Thanks for that. Now the question comes in, we have a couple of things which I'm going to ask you here. I know we privately talked about it, but I think we can definitely discuss here. We always have this issue with the bike riders who come to the parade on the Sikh Day parade, and they are not allowed to ride the bike even at 5 miles an hour speed. So with the turban, because they say you should have the helmet on. So what can be done and how we can have NYPD and the city? I understand the safety issues, I understand the other issues, but how we can have that thing implemented or okayed by the NYPD and the city?
Well, I'm working on that. I have a very good relationship with the NYPD. I'm very happy to say, and I will be having this discussion with them because this is an easy fix. The fact of the matter is that the Sick Day Parade is a short parade. It's not 2 miles, it's not a mile, it's less than that. And they're going to practice safety. 5 miles an hour is not long, and it's also a contained parade. It goes down one avenue. So I'm going to pursue that first with the NYPD, and then if I have to go to other parts of the administration, I will do that.
And also, there is another factor which probably we have discussed in private, which has become actually a big issue in Indian election right now, that the targeted killing which was being planned right here in New York City. And I know, we have conversation on that, and you also condemned it, talked about it. So, for me, when I look at these happenings, I'm like, this is a sovereign country. If I'm a law-abiding citizen of this country, I do have the right to, convey my opinion about repression being done at the other places. Okay?
Sure.
So, what can and how a message can be sent to the government in India that, this is not acceptable? Because when you talk about and you look at the reaction of the Biden government to what happens here from Indian side, but what China or Russia or Iranians try to do, it's a totally different reaction. Even some of the countries which are friendlier countries, they get some of their investigative agency like India. They have RAW, it is some analysis wing, that's how they pronounce it, RAW. Research and analysis wing, that's what it is for. That is like CIA over here. So nobody was kicked out. That is a sort of like, for the community, it's frustrating.
No, I understand that. I will tell you from a city point of view, there's not much that we can do other than, show our support for the community. It's really a federal issue. And so, the federal representatives, I know that when it happened, the federal government, the Office of the President was involved and came out, against what was happening. And I believe it was, I'm not as familiar, but I believe there was an investigation. And so it was something that was taken very seriously. I will tell you that, this is, it's very important to protect folks in our community and to understand some of the issues that go on, even internationally, that we can just be there and be supportive.
And also, because now I have you here, I want the people to actually hear, what extra services you will be bringing into the community, which the community was lacking. Even though the Speaker Adrian Adams, she was, I always will appreciate that she gave us the Punjab Avenue, she gave us Gurdwara Street, she gave us Guru Nanak Way. She made actually the community put up its own stamp in that neighborhood. But that does not mean that the health services, the seniors services, they are not there yet. So what you are planning to do about to fill up that
When
gap?
Thank you, Harpreet. When the lines were first, when they were finalized, I started actually coming into the community, even though I didn't actually take official oversight of the community until January 1st of this year. And I saw a lot of things lacking. Number one, healthcare. I'm chair of the health committee. I had brought in, last year, we brought in a mammogram van. There are a lot of people in the community that, a lot of women don't get screened. I'm a breast cancer survivor. And I think that there's, they put other people first. There's a stigma. They're concerned about, there's a fear also. We had a number of women that took advantage of the van, but we learned some lessons from that of how to do more outreach in the community too, because it's important to work through people that folks know in the community and trust. And so we're going to make sure that we do a bigger event moving forward. That's one. Second is that the last fall, the mayor launched an initiative called Healthy NYC. That's the goal is to increase life expectancy for New Yorkers to the age of 83 by 2030. Pre-COVID, life expectancy started to go down, and it went down even more precipitously during COVID. And what I will tell you is that life expectancy is much lower for people in Black and brown communities. And so I'm going to be going around with the commissioner of the Department of Health, and we're gonna go out into Richmond Hill, and we're gonna visit with a number of people. I've mentioned that to you privately. And we're gonna pull together groups of folks. We're gonna go to the Gurdwaras and all of that, and just see, we wanna hear from the people in the community. We wanna make sure that we have health in languages that are, that people speak, and also culturally sensitive care. I work with a union called Committee of Interns and Residents, many of whom are Sikh, Indian, Hindu, all different kinds of diversity, demographics, and they've been talking to me about wanting to join and go into the community as well. And a lot of them come from the community. A lot of them live in Richmond Hill. So this is something that's very important to me. The other thing that I noticed, which I was, to be honest with you, I was kind of appalled and shocked, was that Richmond Hill does not have one senior center.
Yep.
So there have been a number of community-based organizations that have been taking on the scope of what a senior center would do, providing food for those who are food insecure, providing programs and services and all of that. So I've been talking to the commissioner for the aging department, and I've also been talking with community-based organizations that provide services and food to older adults, and we're going to try and match all of them together and see and bring services, more services to Richmond Hill, especially for our older adults who are much in need.
I know you have to go another meeting. Before you go, I have a question here. When you look at the beds availability in Manhattan, you have so much availability of the beds in the hospital, and when it comes down to Queens, because Richmond Hill is part of Queens, I know where my elder son was born, that hospital is closed. The second hospital, which gave a new life to my younger son, that hospital is closed. Left and right, the hospitals closed in Queens. So being part of that, health, being in charge of the health in New York City, is there any initiative which is coming in to provide more beds within Queens?
I'm really glad you mentioned that. That was actually my number one, that was the number one focus that I had when I first ran for city council in 2021. The hospital capacity, I actually did an op-ed, which was the number one op-ed for 2021 about the lack of hospital capacity in Queens. Queens has the lowest hospital capacity of any borough. And like, I'll give an example. These aren't real numbers, but just to give you a sense. So for every 8 beds that Manhattan might have, Queens would have 3. So that's why Queens was the epicenter of COVID, because we had a lack of hospital capacity. Now, what I will tell you is that one of the things that I'm actually working on with one of my colleagues, Council Member Sylvina Brooks Powers, is a trauma center, not necessarily trauma hospital, a trauma center in Southeast Queens, because the statistics show that in Southeast Queens, if you have any kind of trauma, your chances of surviving are much lower than in any other part of Queens. And as an example, the police officer who was killed in the Rockaways, it took them a long time to get him to the nearest trauma center, which was Jamaica Hospital, which was quite a distance. So, and that didn't help. So that's something that we're looking at. The mayor has made a commitment to do something along those lines. So we're trying to see what we can do. And I've been pushing the administration, and I've also been talking to the governor's office about doing some kind of hospital capacity task force, and I'm going to see if we can move that forward in the future.
Okay, and before you go, anything which you want to add to what we have discussed? I know one day I have to bring you back in the studio so that we can sit here next to each other and talk about the issues.
So first of all, I want everyone to know that at one point when I was growing up, my father was a yellow cab driver. And he had a lot of issues, health issues, way back. I'm talking now in the 70s and early 80s. So there were no services for anybody. And he, in number one, in addition to the health issues, there was, people would drive. They wouldn't, the medallions were a ton of money. So he couldn't afford a medallion. I grew up in a working class family. And so one of the issues that you actually brought up to me recently, which wasn't mentioned today, but I'll mention it, is that apparently there's an issue with taxi drivers who get into like a caught by a red light camera being fined twice.
Yeah, exactly. We did discuss that. Yep.
Light camera, right, and once through Taxi Limousine Commission. It's something that I'm looking into, and I want to try and get resolved. But I do have an empathy and a resolve with those who are yellow taxi drivers, which are a lot of the people in the Sikh and Hindu community. And I also want to say that I'm looking forward to doing so many more things and enriching and lifting up the community as your city council member.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We will continue talking about it, and I'm definite that you will continue delivering whatever you can within your capacity. Once again, thanks very much. Well, welcome back to the mainstream with the Harpreet Singh Tour. We are wrapping up the show actually within a minute. I just want to, add 2-3 things here. Yes, elections are important in any democratic setup. But if those elections divide the community, then those leaders need to look at what they are doing. It is not just happening in India, it is happening here too. When we look at what is happening, what is coming out of, the former president and who is going to, be in this next coming general election again, Donald Trump, when he talks about it, he's not talking about the issues. He talks hatred. He, against the minorities, against any minority. That should not be, on the one hand, we want to reach that on top of the mountain where everybody is looked at and treated equally. At the same time, if you are running, you are dividing the community based on what you perceive, which will make you actually win the election. Okay, number one. Number two, I always say we need to have statesmen. We do not have right now. Biden, how much statesman he is, the time will prove it. Okay, but so far he is doing pretty good. Number three, in U.S. college campuses, there is a huge wave of the students who are actually talking about what is happening in Gaza. Let me say this here. What Hamas did is heinous, no doubt about it. But what Bibi is doing, Benjamin Netanyahu, is no less than what Hamas did. About 70% or 60% of the infrastructure in Gaza is gone. It's not there. Hospitals are not there. Food supplies are not there. And this is how we create an issue for the next generation, which is growing up watching this thing, going through it, and then all of a sudden you treat them as a terrorist. This is how that group of people are created, and we need to stop that one way or the other. Having said that, with that note, till next time, good night and good luck.